This episode of Grilled by the Staff Canteen is sponsored by Westerland, the premier specialist British grower of microleaf, growing cresses, edible flowers, inspired leaves, sea herbs and specialty tomatoes. Visit www.westlandsuk.co.uk to find out more. Thanks for listening to Grilled, a podcast by the Staff Canteen. This is our second series, and you can find every episode on SoundCloud or simply search for Grilled where you usually get your podcasts. I'm Cara, editor of the Staff Canteen, and in this episode I'm talking to Tom Westerland. Welcome to Grilled, Tom.
Hello.
People may know Tom or Westy, which keeps coming up when I have a look at your name on Google, as from last year's Great British Menu. He was the head chef of the brasserie at Luxon Park in Wiltshire at the time of that, and he also became the second of exec chef Howell Jones's produce to take National Chef of Wales title in 2018. So before we talk about your new role, which is what we're going to go on to, I want to find out a bit more about you. So when you're not in the kitchen, what do you like to do for fun? Which is obviously a bit of a weird question at the minute, isn't it? Because everything's changed.
Yeah, well, you're not allowed fun at the moment, are you? No, I still enjoy going out, finding new restaurants and trying places. I'm quite new to the area around Berkshire, so it's quite nice to try new places.
Yeah.
I quite like exploring, trying to find the new pubs in the area as well.
Okay.
That's about it at the moment, really, with sort of everything going on. But yeah, a lot of downtime, chilling out.
Seeing a theme to your fun, which is pubs and restaurants.
It's good, isn't it?
I like it. And obviously, this is a podcast. So, are there any podcasts that you particularly listen to yourself already? Is that something you've got into? Because I know not everyone listens to them, but they've kind of gone a bit massive, haven't they? Everyone seems to have a podcast. So.
So I usually listen to to Paul Foster's The Nightcap. Yep. That's my favourite one. Really interesting. I love hearing some of the stories and some of the things that sort of went on in people's careers years ago. It's, highly amusing.
It is. It's good fun, isn't it? They don't hold back, which is great.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, you get all the details.
And finally, if we opened your fridge at home, what would we find in there today?
Cheese, beer, wine, cheese, and some more cheese, I think.
Cheese fan. Have you got a favourite cheese?
I'm a Welshman, so I love my Caerphilly.
Oh, nice.
And my favourite's the Gorworth. Absolutely love the stuff.
Okay, I've not had that, so I will add that to my list to try. Is there a particular wine that you have with that?
I know, it's whatever's sort of hovering around. I'm quite lucky at Crockers. We've got a fantastic head of wine, so she usually gives me sort of ends of bottles to try, and I try and figure out what it is and still have no idea.
Effects of the job, though.
Oh yeah, exactly.
So let's talk about Crockers. So obviously you became head chef 3 days before lockdown. Is that correct? That's when the
So a senior team started on the 16th of March, all excited, getting ready to set up for a new restaurant, and 4 days later we were all in lockdown.
Not what you were expecting.
Not quite. We had a month to get the restaurant ready to open, and we sort of had to change tactics to running a takeaway.
Yeah,
just to sort of try and push on and sort of get some wages.
So talk to me a bit about that, because obviously that's a very interesting start to your new role. And is it right that you and the team moved upstairs into the hotel? Was that what happened?
So we'd all sort of moved up here, and we were sort of up and down doing meetings, so we weren't aware of anything that was going on. So we were all looking for accommodation, and then lockdown happened. All the estate agents closed, so our only option was to move into the hotel above. So we were all living upstairs, and then we come down and we'd run takeaway for a few hours and you'd be back up, and it was like that for about 3 months.
Yeah, and I'm assuming that you probably had issues with kind of like payroll and stuff, because obviously none of you would have been on in time for the furlough scheme.
Yeah, so we all missed out on the furlough by about 18 days, I think.
Right.
So that was the whole reason we started the takeaway up, was to be able to sort of make a bit of money and some wages just to get us through, really, and just help the business sort of get a bit of a running jump to open up.
So having that time and having to do it in such a different way, did that completely change your kind of vision for Crockers from to maybe now what it is to what when you first going into it?
It wouldn't have changed the vision. It was just kind of a different start to what we'd have hoped. We had a big sort of soft opening week planned where we were going to ease ourselves into sort of opening up. We had a big sort of opening party booked in as well. We had all of everyone that's helped us through sort of the opening and all the design and all the building work invited, which didn't get to happen. And it really launched us into having to find what the locals wanted to do at takeaway, and develop a cuisine for that. Whereas now we've properly opened, we've had to sort of change and try and get away from that a little bit.
Yeah. And is that all right? Is that kind of been an easy transition, or is it quite difficult because people have got used to what you were doing?
It's quite difficult because they come in expecting what we were doing at lockdown and takeaway, which some of the bits are like we've got a fantastic burger on, which we still serve now, which was developed in lockdown. But the style of food's very, very different, and it's trying to get that across to the sort of the locals and the guests so that they know what we are actually doing now and sort of what we have in the restaurant.
Yeah. So talk to me a bit more about Crockers then as it is now. So what people can expect from it, like you say, you've got a different style to what you were having to do in lockdown. So talk to me a bit more about it and what it's like.
So it's quite an interesting place. We have 3 different restaurants all within one building. So we've got 2 chef's tables. We've got a Pan-Asian chef's table that's headed up by head chef Ian Dixon, which is fantastic. And we've got a modern British chef's table headed up by Dean Westcar, that I used to work with at Luckman Park. And then I run the grill restaurant, which is the third one. So we do breakfast, lunch, dinner, and it's quite modern, touching fine dining, but it's very, very relaxed.
Okay.
So going from having food put in boxes, and sort of burgers, hot dogs, things like that, trying to get across to the sort of local community what we're trying to do and what we are doing is very, very sort of difficult, but we're kind of getting there now.
Yeah, it must be really strange having to put food into boxes as a chef of where what you're used to doing. It must be very strange.
It was a real culture shock. I got a real knack for closing the box and writing on the lid. But we were doing there were some nights where we were doing sort of about 150, 200 covers on it, and it was amazing to see because it was a completely different setup. We'd have all of our checks would be pre-ordered before service, so you'd have 200 covers on the board ready to go, and we'd be serving sort of 15, 20 covers every 15 minutes. So it was quite amazing to see a different side of how sort of services work. And I tell you what, I don't envy takeaways. When you look at it now, they got a very difficult job.
You're glad to be back doing what you do best.
Oh yeah. First time I saw a plate again, I didn't know what to do with it.
I know, it must have been quite strange to be like, okay, well, I have a bit of space here and I can make this look how I want it to look. Yeah,
well, it was a completely different thought. When you were designing takeaway food, you were trying to figure out you had to think about so many things, how well it would travel, how long it would stay hot, the texture of how things would change, how it would look in a box. So it was a very different thought process to when you're designing food that's being served in a restaurant. You've got to think about the longevity. It needs to survive a good 30, 40 minutes traveling sometimes. So it was a very different thought process.
And how it goes in is dependent on how it travels, isn't it? It's how it comes back out again. So.
Yeah, well, we used to get some quite interesting pictures. People would try and plate it up at home and sort of show us. And you'd put it in the box and it'd be pristine and it'd come back and it looked like someone's shaking it around.
Oh, well, at least you can do it the way you like to do it now, which is really, really good.
Exactly.
So you said that it hasn't really, it's not changed how you imagined Crockers would be before lockdown. You obviously have still stuck to this is how, this is my menu, this is what I want to do.
So we've still taken the original dream and pushed on with it. We kind of said we didn't want to compromise on anything. We wanted to stick to our guns. So we opened up, kept the interior designer, finished everything off. All the building work was finished just a week before we opened. And then we really cracked on with what we wanted to do. We opened up with a lot less staff than we planned to originally. Yeah. Which affected things, but it just means we keep things a little bit simpler. And obviously slightly less diners means that we can achieve what we want to with less staff. So it's just trying to manage those two sides of it, really.
And when did you actually open?
So we opened on the 1st of August. Well, we kind of had a few different, we've done 3 or 4 openings. We had our takeaway opening. And then on the 4th of July, when they announced outside dining, we kind of did a sneak preview of what we were going to do. And we did that. We did that on tables outside. And then on the 1st of August, we did our full launch. So we launched the hotel, the 2 chef's tables and the grill fully with the bar. So that we did sort of 3 different openings, which I think kind of helped develop and sort of train the team up as well.
We've launched the Staff Canteen Awards 2020. Never mind Michelin stars and rosettes, this year's must-have accolade is our gold mug. The awards will be live on our Facebook page on November 18th, so save the dates. We'll be announcing categories and how to nominate soon, so keep an eye on our social channels and website for more info. All of the winners will be voted for and nominated by the public, so no judging panel, no stuffy dinner, and no expensive event ticket. TSC are breaking the mould. So come on, you all know you want a gold mug to add to your collection. So as a chef, the new restrictions that have come in most recently, because I know it's constant, but the most recent obviously ones that we're facing possibly for the next 6 months, that's obviously a real worry for the industry. But as a chef, what did you think when you heard that?
Well, there's two thoughts that go through your head. Your sort of immediate one is, oh, this is a massive loss in covers and obviously revenue. And then when you kind of get over that, you've also got to think about, is this maybe one of those changes for the good? I think chefs are all really bad at having a personal life and sort of taking time out. They always want to be in the restaurant cooking. And this kind of forces that you can get out a little bit earlier every night. You're not hanging around sort of waiting for that sort of the table that's going to turn up after you've closed. So you don't know, it might be a slight positive comes out of it. People just dine earlier. All we've done is open slightly earlier. So we're doing the same covers, same revenue, but we're just doing them earlier in the day.
Yeah. Okay. So you're taking it from a positive side then?
Yeah, I think it's the only way you can really look at it. There's going to be changes come out of coronavirus outbreak. And this could be one of the good ones that, you know, people are thinking, oh, I'm going to eat a bit earlier. The chefs can get out a bit earlier. Front of house, we've got a slightly easier job. Yeah, it might be one of those positives.
So there'll obviously be restaurants that can't open earlier for whatever reasons, or it's difficult for them to get their lunch trade in and then give their staff a break before they get into the evening service. So do you think maybe that the industry should have been consulted a little bit more before these restrictions came in? Do you think that the government is aware of how hospitality works?
Yeah, I definitely think it should have been consulted more. I feel that it was one of those decisions that was made very quickly, almost a bit of a scapegoat. I don't think that it's been thought out thoroughly for every single part of hospitality. Some places can adapt to it. Obviously, it doesn't work for everyone. It can have some massive impacts on a lot of businesses. Yeah,
I feel like maybe just a blanket kind of restrictions is probably wasn't the right way to go, like you said, because everyone's very different, aren't they? So
yeah, I mean, I understand where they're coming from with it, but I think maybe aiming towards like last orders at 10 o'clock or something. So even if you've got guests that are in, as long as they've ordered by 10 o'clock, they can enjoy what they've got, which would sort of save the restaurant industry side of it. It would still, your late night pubs and bars will suffer from it, but at least you're supporting more of the industry than they are now.
Yeah. Okay. And as a young chef, have you found that the industry's been quite supportive through all of this? Do you think everyone's kind of trying to help each other?
I think the industry's been very supportive. I think everybody's in the same boat here. And I think everybody's a little bit worried about their jobs and, redundancies. So I think everyone's been quite supportive of each other and helping out where they can, really. I'd say we're all in the same boat. There's not a lot you can do, really.
And how have you managed it with obviously your staff? I know you said you've got less staff than what you probably were intending to have, but that's part of the role really as head chef, that it's not just about cooking anymore, is it? You have to look after all of these people. How have you found that?
So you have got a duty of care, and there's 3 of us in my kitchen, and then there's the sort of 4 or 5 of us between the other 2, and we're trying to keep a sort of a small team, and we've reduced our opening hours so that we can kind of safeguard those jobs. So we're not just taking on lots of staff and then all of a sudden we've got an issue a few months down the line where we have to make some sort of bad decisions or lay people off. But it's also quite hard trying to support people and keep them assured that everything is going to be okay. There's a lot of worries every day when people read the news and they hear about lockdowns happening again. So there's a lot of sort of panic out there and trying to reassure people that everything will be okay.
Yeah. And what was it like? Because you said that you all moved in kind of together. What was that like?
Oh, that was So most of us had never met each other before. So it was
it's like a version of Big Brother.
Yeah, it was quite interesting. But I think it's done some good because we've got an absolutely solid team now. Everybody knows each other very well.
Yeah.
Any sort of arguments or gripes that we would have had, they've all been done and they were over with in lockdown. So we've got an absolutely solid team. But yeah, it was also quite interesting. It was nice not to be alone through lockdown. We sort of, you had the company, you could enjoy yourself. We'd all cook dinner every night and have a sit down in the restaurant and eat it.
Yeah, it sounds like a really interesting way to do lockdown.
Definitely definitely.
The first one I think I've heard where all the whole team were living together. So, so you worked with Hal Jones. Is he someone that you look to as a mentor?
So yes, Howell's got to be my mentor in my career. I was with him for 7.5 years, and I almost look at him a bit of a parent figure now. He's fantastic. He's always on the end of the phone if I need advice. I always get a text or a message every so often just to check up, see how I'm doing. But no, he's fantastic. He's so supportive. He looks at his team as though they're his family. He takes care of them so well.
Yeah.
So that's really something that I'd like to carry on through my career, is take what he's done and keep it going.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. And so how was it working with him, and did you enjoy it? What did you take from it?
Oh, it was fantastic. He was so supportive and he gave me so many opportunities. And he's very good at pushing your career. If at any point he feels as though you're sort of stagnant or you're standing still, he'll push you to do a competition, or he'll push you in another direction onto a new section to learn something. So he's very, very good at driving you and making sure that you're getting the most out of your time where you are. And he was extremely supportive when I was looking at my next step. Not something you expect off a lot of bosses, but he was fantastic with advice and telling me what to look for, what to do, where to start looking.
That's what you want though, isn't it? That's what you want to feel like you're not letting someone down, or you don't want it to be weird when you decide to move on to a new role, do you?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a massive change after working for somebody for 7 years. And especially with two of us. So Dean, one of the other head chefs, he was head chef of the fine dining and I had the brasserie. So we both went to the same place at the same time.
Okay, I didn't realise you went at the same time. Okay.
Yeah, so he finished a few months earlier.
You stagger telling him that.
Yeah, essentially. So so that was a bit of a sort of a hard one and a tough one to do, but I say he was absolutely very supportive and he was fantastic with it.
So in terms of your career then, did you always want to be a chef? I do ask this sometimes. Was it that's what you always wanted to do, or have you had an interesting journey to this point?
Well, I kind of, when I was it all started when I was in high school, and I wasn't very good at cooking and food tech.
Okay.
And the teacher said to me, she said, "Thank God I haven't got to teach you next year when you take your GCSEs." So I thought, just as a bit of a wind up, I'll take it just to annoy her.
Okay.
And I was terrible. I hated it, and I actually started enjoying it, and I got quite good at it, and that's sort of how I fell into it.
Really?
Yeah. So I thought there's all a bit of a funny story, really.
So what sort of things were you making at school that you were rubbish at then?
Oh, well, just about everything really. Curry, scones. There was always something burnt on the bottom of the pan. I usually wouldn't bother bringing it home. It'd be ditched straight away. It was terrible.
Right.
But
so then when you said to your teacher and your parents, actually, I'd quite like to be a chef, what did they say?
Well, they were quite surprised, to be honest. Yeah. But I've never looked back since. I think it's all, as soon as I got the buzz for it, it's all I ever wanted to do, really.
Yeah.
And I don't think I could imagine myself doing anything differently.
Yeah. So when you first went into a professional kitchen, what was it that you enjoyed about it? Because you obviously said you've got a buzz for it and you obviously love it. You're still doing it now, so.
I think it's the guests. It's the first kitchen I went into was an open kitchen. I can remember I was on pot wash working in the corner, but I can remember hearing the guests go past, saying thank you and talking with the chefs about what they'd had. And I think it was that side of it where you're helping to lighten somebody's day, or you're actually doing something that's appreciated.
Yeah.
So I think it's that side, it's the service side of it that really drew me in. Yeah.
And did you have or do you have goals of where you want to be in your career at certain ages, or things like that? Often it's that I want to be head chef by whatever age, or I want to have my own restaurant.
I don't think so. From an early age, I always wanted to make sure I was trying to learn everything I could. So that's why Lucknow Park was fantastic, because it had the two kitchens to learn across. Harold's very good at training you in all the areas. So that was my biggest goal, was I wanted to try and learn as much as I could about cooking while I was there. And then I only ever really planned on doing sort of 3 years. And then I got the opportunity to start looking at management. So that was a big part of it. I then wanted to learn as much as I could about how to manage and run a kitchen from them. And then I had it in my head that when I was sort of 28, 29, I'd want to look at moving on to my next step and sort of going it on my own, in my own head chef's role.
Yeah. So would you say to younger chefs then that if you do find somewhere where they are supportive and there is room for you to grow and go up into management, that actually you don't necessarily have to jump around all over the place, you can stay put and get what you need?
Yeah, definitely. I'd always advise, if you can find somewhere where there's enough growing room with a few kitchens and quite a large team, you're always going to be learning something new.
Mm-hmm.
And there's always opportunities when people move on to be able to move up through the ladder. And it's always easier to be able to learn management and run somewhere where you're already comfortable with the style of food you're cooking.
Yeah.
So that would be my advice, is to stick to somewhere and move up through the ranks where you are.
Okay. And you do a lot of competitions. I think you mentioned that Hal's was said to do those, to put you to do those. Is that why you started doing them, or was that something that you just chose to do off your own back?
So yeah, it was really him pushing me to do them, really. So everybody at Luckland Park at some stage will have done some competitions, and it's kind of, once you've done your first one, you get a real buzz for it.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you don't do very well, it's an amazing chance to learn, network, and meet people. So I did, it would have been 2013, I did Young Southwest Chef of the Year, and I was hooked on them after that. So every year I set goals about which competitions I wanted to do. And obviously your goal is always to win, but it doesn't always happen straight away. It takes a lot of time and development. So in my time there, that's really what I wanted to do, was see what I could do, see what I could achieve.
Yeah. Okay. And obviously did Great British Menu, which is competition with cameras all over the place, and then you have to be on the telly. So what was that like in comparison to like most like live competitions that you do?
It was very different. The cooking bit was the easy bit of the competition. I'd say that was the sort of the least pressure you had on you. It was the camera sort of being pointed at you while you were cooking wasn't too bad. It was the stressful part was hanging around and waiting to do your walking through the corridors.
Yeah. How many times did you have to walk down the corridor?
Oh, I don't know. Many times. Do it from another angle. Yeah, lots of them.
Did you wonder what they were actually looking for? Did you feel
Well, it was quite nice. After, I can remember watching the Great British Menu from when I was about sort of 9 or 10.
Okay.
And I can remember having watched how they did the scenes when I was actually filming it. I was like, oh, that's how they do that bit.
Right.
But also was quite lucky because I was the first year to be in the new studio, to see all of the new studio that was unveiled. So it was fantastic to see all that side of it as well.
Yeah. Probably quite interesting, like you said, to see how they're made. I think often people think that what they see on the telly is exactly how it is, but it's not, is it? I mean, there's so much filmed as well. You're there. It's a long day, isn't it? You're there filming like all day.
Yeah, definitely. So it was. We used to start at 7:30, 8 in the morning. You might not be cooking until 2 in the afternoon, because you'd have all of the walking up and down corridors, all the interviews, even the shots of putting your apron on and off. That was a sort of a good half hour, 40 minutes sometimes. But it was amazing. I always tell people, if you can get yourself on there, it's an amazing experience.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it's great for your profile as well, isn't it? So.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's fantastic. And it's great for the restaurants as well. There's such a buzz around the time when it's going on and afterwards.
So you said obviously you have goals for competitions that you wanted to do. Is there one competition that you would love to win more than any, if you haven't already won it already?
So the one I really want to win next is Craft Guild National Chef of the Year.
Okay.
So I've got to the final 2 years running. So my next step is I really want to win it.
Okay.
So I was going to enter this year, but then when Crockers came up, I thought it's not a great time to do it. And
it's going to be a bit of a strange one this year anyway, isn't it? So.
It's a very, very different one. I think they announce it in 2 days, don't they? But it's been a very different format and a very different running to it. And but it's amazing to see they've stuck to their guns and carried on, and they're still going to achieve it.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic. So
having been in the final twice, do you feel like you now know how to win it?
I don't think anyone knows how to win it. It's I'm not going to say it's potluck on the day, but I think it's a lot down to practice and how everything goes in the day. It's a very different environment when you're cooking one thing in your kitchen that you're very relaxed and you know how everything works, and you turn up on a stage with a couple of induction hobs, and you've got so many Michelin star chefs walking around in front of you.
Oh, there is a lot of pressure.
There's a lot of them. There's a lot of pressure there.
Yeah, I know. I always think that when I turn up to watch and I see them all lined up, and I think, God, I would not want to be cooking in front of all of these people. You're
there trying to do your best, and you look up every 2 minutes, and there's somebody there, and you go, "Oh no."
Who's the one that you look up and you think, "Oh God, I don't want it to be you"?
Well, I think the last time I did it, I was filling some potato tubes with potato foam, and I'd overcharged the ISI gun, and it blew out. And just as it did it, Monica Galetti walked past, and I got that look from the skills challenge when someone does something wrong.
She's used to it. It's fine.
Oh yeah.
Is that one you'd want to do? Would you want to do MasterChef, or is that not something that's ever?
I think I would like to do MasterChef. I think MasterChef's very. If you do very well, you come across well. Whereas I do not want to be that guy that makes the mistake on the skills challenge.
Yeah.
We've all seen it, and as much as you can watch it as many times as you want, there's always something they're going to pull out the back. And you go, well, what the hell is that?
Yeah. Or your mind just goes blank. I feel like a lot of people, their mind just goes blank. So
yeah, it's the cameras do something really strange to you. They panic you. They make you a different person.
Yeah. No, and especially as well, I suppose that skills test, the people you're stood in front of doing that skill on your own, it must be a horrible feeling.
Oh yeah, definitely. But yeah, it's definitely something I'd love to do in the future at some stage.
Okay. And so back to you, back to Crockers and the menu at Crockers. How do you approach creating a menu? Because now your head chef, that's it's your menu. Do you have a particular style yet, do you think, or do you think you've brought stuff with you from like Lucknam Park, which I suppose is inevitable when you work with someone for that long, but you feel like who you are as a chef now?
So my food at Lucknam, Hal was very good at giving me a lot of my own creative space, and helping me develop a lot of my own dishes. So I was quite lucky in the fact that when I came, I'd already developed my cuisine quite a lot.
Okay.
And sort of since I've been at Crockers, I've been given even more opportunity to be able to do that. So I'd say that I've really just started refining what I do, and just upping the ante a little bit. I mean, luckily I've got a big charcoal fired grill, which I love using. A lot of my food revolves around that. So when I'm designing a dish, that's where I start is, how am I going to cook it and what flavor can I get from this charcoal grill?
Yeah.
So a lot of the dishes are developed around that. My style is quite fun and quite quirky. So I've just put a new dish on, which is a duck toasty.
Okay.
With orange and smoked ham, and we've got like a Kentucky fried octopus on, which is my signature dish.
Oh, brilliant!
Which is sort of quite different and out there and quite fun. So
yeah, no, it does sound fun. So, do you have like particular ingredients then? Because you said obviously you like to use that particular equipment, but do you have particular ingredients you like to use? Do you think about sustainability and flavors, and is that all stuff that kind of all comes into play?
So I gravitate towards sort of slower cooked cuts of meat, and a lot of root vegetables, just because I think that the longer you can cook something, you can develop a lot more flavour in it over time. And I quite like working with more humble, cheaper ingredients. When it comes to fish, I love some of the underrated fish to really try and support sustainability. I mean, I've got Gurnard on at the moment, and everybody that comes to the restaurant, they say, "What's Gurnard?" And as soon as they get it, they want more and more of it.
Yeah.
Because it's something they've never had before, they won't have even thought of eating.
Yeah.
But it's a fantastic fish.
Yeah. And it's great as a chef that you can do that you can put that ingredient in front of people and open their kind of eyes to it.
Oh yeah, definitely. I love putting things in the menu that people may not have seen or heard of before. And then when they get it, it's something that they recognise. They go, "Oh, you've served it in a way I understand." And they then understand the ingredients as well.
Yeah. So, put you under pressure a little bit now. How many years have you been a chef for?
14 years now.
14 years. So, you must have an outrageous or unbelievable story that has happened whilst you're during your time in restaurants that people listening would be like, Oh my God.
Oh, it's not been that bad. I think the funniest one, well, it was based around a fire, funny enough. So this was when I was at Lucknam, and we had this fantastic wood burning pizza oven, and it was a bank holiday weekend. You know what things are like for breaking down at bank holiday weekends. And for some reason, the fan on the top of the oven had stopped working on top of the building, and it was mid-service, and cooking a pizza and some other dishes in there. I looked outside, and outside of the restaurant was all completely white with smoke. I looked around and go, what's going on here? Walked outside, and chimney on top of the building's on fire.
Oh God. Okay.
So I go, oh no, what do we do now? What's this? We obviously called the fire brigade. We all evacuate. And I've got one of my chefs is outside panicking. I go, say, what's wrong? And he said, oh, I'm really worried. I've got a brownie in the oven. It might burn. They go, I think that's the least of our worries now, isn't it? And so he runs back in anyway after we've all been given the go ahead, and he's forgotten to turn the bloody oven on, hasn't he?
Oh no. Well, at least the brownie was fine then.
Well, the brownie was fine, yeah. At least it didn't burn.
Chimney not so much, but brownie was absolutely fine. So
yeah, exactly.
Where do you? I know we talked about it a little bit, but where do you see yourself in the future? Because I know the Crockers is very new for you, so you're probably not thinking too far ahead of where you are now. But do you have any goals? Like, do you want to have like your own like independent restaurant? Like, what's your kind of thoughts for the future?
It's a tough one, that is. Obviously, I've just started a new position. I mean, I can see myself with Crockers for quite a long time there. It's a fantastic company, and they've got an amazing vision. Mm-hmm. And the way they treat and take care of their staff is fantastic. We've got an amazing package where everybody gets, it's a 45-hour week, dental care, health plan, gym membership.
Okay.
So they're really sort of trying to be trendsetters in what we're doing for our staff. And it's something I really believe in. So I can sort of see myself hanging around, sticking with Crockers and just seeing really where the future goes with them, because I think further down the line over the next 10 years, there's going to be more and more of them popping up. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good. It's good to hear that that's so like forward thinking, which is great. What the industry needs, right? So.
Yeah, definitely, and they're very fantastic. They're supportive in how if they take a chef on to work in the restaurant as a head chef, they treat it as though that is your restaurant, and they want your personality, your cuisine to come across. Obviously, they'll tell you what they're kind of looking for within the restaurant, but they really let your personality sing throughout the restaurant, and that's one thing I love about it.
Yeah. Okay. And I suppose finally, again, we kind of briefly touched on this, but what about the industry as a whole? Like, can it survive any more restrictions? You know, and like obviously there's always talk about another full lockdown, which is terrifying. Nobody wants to do that. You think we're going to see kind of more casualties in terms of restaurants that just can't make it through this particular period?
I think the rest of this year, I think people are going to really try and push, and they're going to struggle through. I think the bit that's going to hit is going to be winter next year. Mm-hmm. January next year, I think, is going to be a real tough one. But I just think the industry is going to have to pull together, and hopefully there'll be a bit of support for the government if anything does happen and we go back into lockdown. But I think we're all just going to have to adapt as an industry and sort of look at what we do, maybe change what we do to adapt to new ways of working and living. And and that's what the next few months are going to be about, is looking at what's going on and how we can adapt to things.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose looking around the industry and on social media and things, that's what a lot of people have already done, haven't they? They've adapted, they've completely changed like their styles, their directions. A lot of chefs have gone in a completely different way. So
yeah, definitely. I think a lot of people have adapted really well to it, but it's all you can really do with these new opening hours. You've got to look at, if you've got a tasting menu on, you've really got to look at how you're serving the dishes, your time frames, the size of the food, the price of it as well, if people are having a shorter experience, which obviously impacts your revenue and your staffing. So it's a big change, especially when you only get 2 or 3 days notice on it. But,
it is.
That's the biggest thing, is you can overcome anything if you've got the time to plan for it. But when you're only given 2 or 3 days notice on things, it's very difficult to change and adapt your business again.
Yeah, that's a big thing when I've spoke to chefs, particularly, so like in the Northeast, I had a chat with some of the chefs up there, and they said that if they just had a little bit more time, then it would have been easier for them to kind of adapt and change. But just to get told a couple of days before, that whole weekend is now completely different, and people just start cancelling bookings because they don't know what's going on and what's best to do. So I think a bit of time would definitely be appreciated if things are going to change.
Oh yeah, definitely. It definitely help a touch, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
A crystal ball would help a touch, wouldn't it?
So, definitely. We would have looked into that a year ago.
Well, fingers crossed you can stick to putting your amazing food on plates and not back in boxes. We can stay on plates. That would be great. But good luck with Crockers, and I'm sure I will speak to you at some point going forward. And good luck with when you do decide to enter the National Chef of the Year again as well. So
thank you very much.
No, thank you very much for doing this. It was lovely to chat to you, and I'll speak to you soon.
Speak to you soon.
We hope you enjoyed this interview, and if you have any comments, feel free to tweet us or comment on the post. We're making all of our interviews available to download. And finally, if you like what we do, whether it's our podcast or our videos or even our features, please head over to our Patreon page and support us there. This episode of Grilled by the Staff Canteen is sponsored by Westerland, the premier specialist British grower of microleaf, growing cresses, edible flowers, inspired leaves, sea herbs and specialty tomatoes. Visit www.westlandsuk.co.uk to find out more.